In Disney's movie, Frozen 2, the main character, Queen Elsa, has to cross a raging body of water called the Dark Sea. She has to cross it because a voice that has been calling to her the entire movie has led her to the shore. Now, there's a legendary ancient glaciated river that sits just on the other side of the Dark Sea, and it's called Ahtohallan. Standing on the shore of the Dark Sea, Elsa realizes that the voice that she's been hearing is coming from that frozen river. Ahtohallan is a magical frozen river that if you follow it all the way down, it will show you memories from your life and maybe even from your ancestors' lives as well. The river that awaits Elsa on the other side of the Dark Sea holds the key that she is going to need to understand her past and the present and the legacy that's been handed to her, and it will help her know what she needs to do to restore justice and peace and equanimity in her own land. But first, she's got to cross the Dark Sea. Now, she has magic powers, so this shouldn't be too hard. She takes off her shoes and her cloak, and she rolls up her sleeves, and she runs into the water, which tosses her mercilessly onto the shore. Even her magic powers are no match for the swirling winds of this formidable passage. She does this over and over, and each time the sea tosses her out onto the cold sand. But on her final attempt to cross the sea, as the waters begin to toss and to twist her, an image appears under the water. It's an ice horse swimming up towards her, and she grabs the reins and has to work her way onto its back. Now, this is not a tame horse, but with her sense of calm, even amidst the now multiple things tossing her about, the horse soon calms as well, and the horse consents to deliver her to the other side where her next chapter would begin. Now, you may or may not know anything about Frozen 2. My guess is if you have kids, then you know a lot about Frozen 2. But suffice it to say that every time I watch this movie with my kids, I find this scene gripping. And it fills me with a kind of longing, what I wouldn't give to literally, physically cross from the shore that I know, i.e. my comfort zone, to the shore where I need to go to the other side, and then to just have help appear when I need it. Now that would be really nice. But the voices that call us to the places that we need to go are not so easily traceable. I envy the disciples in this way too. Jesus said, "Follow me," and they did. I'm not saying that it was easy, but at least it was clear. They just followed him all around Galilee. And then at the shore, he said, "Let us go to the other side." And they apparently said, "Okay," and got into the boat. And so it goes. They just keep following him. Now, I was surprised to learn in my recent doctoral studies that there are actually many vast layers of mythic meaning that are strategically placed into the story by the writers of these stories. They knew what they were doing. They were creating a blueprint for even us to be able to understand. Here's the deal. In the ancient world, stories about and depictions of boats represent liminality, confrontation, and transformation. The boat is not just a boat. It is a symbol. It's a metaphorical bridge from an old life to a new life, and what must be confronted along the way. The boat is literally a life preserver on the waters of transformation, carrying us safely towards what we are becoming. But the boat travels on open water. And here, the story is full of intentional mythic meaning, of the mystery of the deep, the chaos, the watery primordial meaning of what it has always been, even at the beginning of time. It is what can't be seen just yet, what is just below the surface. Now, most great epics involve water that must be crossed or explored or faced in some way. There is a necessary confrontation with unknown mysteries that we have to go through to make it from here to there. And getting there, to the other side, is far more than just a relocation. It is a reorientation. It's a new chapter, maybe even a whole new book. It's letting go and enduring the uncomfortable time when all you have is an empty and open hand until something new is placed into it. It's like an initiation, and we all have at least a few of these in our lives. You can't grow up spiritually unless you pick up your feet from the sandy, solid shore and step into the wobbly wooden thing that is rocking back and forth. At some point, you got to get in the boat. Now, friends, right now, as a society and as the whole world, we find ourselves in a boat about maybe 2/3 of the way across a very stormy sea. We are hopefully seeing land, but we don't yet know what that new geography is going to be like. The sea change of the post-pandemic world will take some time to level out, and we just don't know much about it yet, but we do know that the old world is simply no longer there. Now, it's not often in history that humanity goes through a global initiation together, and yet here we are, as the Chinese proverb would say, living in interesting times. And yet, certainly we know that we're familiar with our own individual initiations, our own crossings from the comfortable to the unknown. There are the common ones: graduations, new jobs, and then job changes, marriage, relationships, maybe children, parenting, maybe divorce, losing loved ones, inevitable grief, moves, relocation, kids growing up, retirement, and so on. All of these transitions are moving from one side of something to the other, and they are common initiations of their own. And then there are the bigger ones, the ones that are more tailored to the growth that your soul is seeking, where the crossing that you need to take is much more about getting out of your own way. And this is what strikes me about this story from Mark. The disciples, if left to their own devices, are just not able to do this. Their fear and their anxiety are not helpful here. They have to get out of their own way. And we, when left to our own devices, also aren't able to do the big crossings that we are called to. And often, when we try, it ends up being our fear and our anxiety that unwittingly drive the boat. Even all of the earnest ways that we might try and twist ourselves into a pretzel to make the storm die down, it only makes us more frenetic. And into this, Jesus, grounded in the reality of the moment that finds waters swamping the boat, says, "Peace, be still." Now, he doesn't say, "You have nothing to be afraid of," because that's just not true. But he speaks into the fear that is there, and he calms the storm inside of the disciples as much as he calms the sea itself. Have you ever felt this? In the middle of your own stormy seas, waters swamping the boat that you hoped would ferry you to safe passage, have you ever felt this growing calm take hold of you? Maybe it starts like a tiny little seed that, like a time-lapse video, takes root and begins to spread until your whole body is aware of a kind of warmth. Some of you have likely felt that. And for some, this might sound like wishful thinking, another empty promise from a preacher. But friends, this is what can happen. This is what Jesus shows us and what Jesus grows in us. Storms can, and certainly will at times in life, rage all around, and we can hear the voice of God, the voice that our soul knows well. We can hear that voice simply say, "Peace, be still." and we can also be the boat, or the frozen horse in Frozen 2. For those who don't know that calm in the storm just yet, we can be the boat for them. It isn't magic. It doesn't take the reality of the challenge, the danger even, away. But it reminds us that it isn't up to us to calm the storm. We simply need to get out of the way so that God can. Wherever you need to hear and to let in these words of Jesus, peace, be still, you can do that anytime. In the midst of all that is unknown in the world and in your life right now, God says, peace, be still. In concerns about the planet, injustice, and your deep desire for the world to change, even into that, Jesus says, it isn't all up to you. Find your center, peace, be still. In anxiety and our overwhelmedness, peace, be still. In concerns about a diagnosis, prognosis, and treatments, peace, be still. In concerns about your children, your parents, your marriage, peace, be still. In loneliness, peace, be still. In the places where your heart aches, peace, be still. In grief, peace, be still. In longing, peace, peace, dear one, be still. In receiving Jesus' words and consenting to the peace and stillness that we are offered, and letting our struggle and our striving go, even if just for a little bit, we stop acting like we are the ones that the wind and the sea obey. That's God's job. Once we're in the boat, we can only receive the calm, the assurance, the peace that passes all understanding that we are offered smack dab in the middle of the storm. And the wind and the seas around us and inside of us may just respond in kind. Let it be so. Amen.